Surround yourself with people who make you feel good about yourself. It's like having friends who bring out the best in you. But it can be tough figuring out which connections are genuine. It's a bit like trying to tell if you're seeing a real oasis or just a mirage in the big desert of human interaction. In a world full of meetings and mixed signals where people often wear masks of politeness and look out for their own interests, figuring out who truly cares about us is like mastering an art. It's not just about trusting your gut feeling, but also paying close attention. Sometimes we trust too much in others' kindness, only to find out we're being taken advantage of. Just like a skilled gardener who knows which plants are helpful and which ones steal nutrients from the soil, we need to recognize the true friends in our lives. It's also important to spot those who drain us emotionally. Now let's delve into the subtle signs and less obvious clues that show what's really behind those forced smiles and empty promises. If you're here, you're probably into personal development. In this discussion, we'll explore the wisdom of understanding these human puzzles, shining a light on the path to more real and fulfilling relationships. Before we dive in, I want to ask you to stick around till the end because all of this is essential. Stay focused, be strong, and make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's talk about number 15, not keeping promises. Picture this like a play where words play the main role, and actions are supposed to be the script. Some people are excellent at using words to promise support and commitment, like a painter creating beautiful images with their words. But here's the catch. When it's time to turn those words into actions, they often fall short, showing that their promises were empty. In these kinds of relationships, a pattern emerges. When you need their support the most, they tend to disappear, leaving you feeling disappointed and let down. This isn't just a trust issue, it's a clear sign of their true intentions. Their promises are like tools to manipulate you, getting what they want without planning to give anything back. Not keeping promises becomes a kind of test. It helps separate those who value relationships as a two-way street of mutual respect and support from those who only see relationships as ways to benefit themselves. For those who've been let down, it's a tough but important lesson. Not every promise is honest. So, the failure to keep promises is a key thing to watch out for when trying to understand if someone might be using you. It's a behavior that reveals a person's true character and intentions, speaking louder than any fancy words. Recognizing this pattern helps you navigate the tricky world of relationships with a more careful eye. Protecting your trust and emotions. Number 14. Mean or disrespectful comments. Some people who use others for their own gain are really good at making small, hurtful remarks that slowly break down your self-esteem, confidence, and how you see yourself. These comments might seem like jokes or casual teasing, but they're like little hooks meant to bring you down instead of lifting you up. They might make light of your achievements, laugh at your dreams, or act uninterested when you're going through a tough time. It's a bit like a quiet kind of mental warfare. By downplaying what you do and want, these people try to make you doubt yourself and feel less important, making it easier for them to control and influence you. To them, making you feel less worthy boosts their own status, making them seem more powerful in the relationship. Also, these mean comments often show that they're dealing with their own issues and insecurities. By putting others down, they're trying to hide their own weaknesses and look better than they really are. This behavior is a clear sign that they're not good at having healthy, supportive relationships where both sides give and take. Recognizing and understanding this kind of behavior is really important. It helps you see past the fake charm these people often put on and understand the unhealthy dynamics of the relationship. It's a signal that you might need to talk to them about their behavior, set some clear rules, or maybe distance yourself from the negativity. Now let's explore number 13, one-sided benefits. This can show up in different parts of a relationship, like money, feelings, or practical help. When it comes to money, the user might often borrow cash or things, promising to give back or help in return, but those promises never happen. Emotionally, they might rely a lot on the other person for support, approval, and attention, but when it's the other way around, they're not there. In practical terms, they might ask for help, favors, or time, but mysteriously vanish or get too busy when it's their turn to help. This one-sidedness is a bit like a parasitic relationship in nature, where one side benefits a lot, but the other side pays the price. The user acts like a parasite, taking emotional, financial, or practical support without giving back enough to keep the relationship healthy. After a while, this lack of balance can use up the giver's resources, whether it's emotional energy, money, or time, leaving them tired and unsatisfied. The reasons behind this one-sided benefit often come from being self-centered and not understanding how the other person feels. The user sees relationships as transactions, thinking about what they can get instead of what they can give. This way of approaching relationships is not good because it doesn't appreciate the importance of both sides giving and getting support and respect. To recognize this pattern, you need to pay attention. Notice if there's always a lack of balance, and if you constantly feel like you're not getting what you deserve in the relationship. It's about honestly looking at whether the interactions leave you feeling important and respected, or used and not appreciated. Now let's talk about number 12, ignoring your feelings or needs. Imagine it like taking care of a garden where only one flower is getting attention and the others are left to wither. In these situations, the other person's needs and wants come first, and yours are pushed aside or not taken seriously. It's like they're using words and actions to cut away at your emotional well-being, making you feel unimportant and invisible. This disregard can show up in different ways. Maybe they consistently ignore when you need emotional support, not being there for you when you're going through a tough time. It might also be in how they don't care about your opinions and choices, always pushing their own ideas. They might not acknowledge your achievements, or even worse, downplay your struggles, making light of things that really matter to you. This behavior isn't just thoughtless, it's a purposeful neglect, a way for them to keep control in the relationship. By making you feel like your feelings and needs don't matter, they create an environment where you doubt your own worth, making it easier for them to influence and control you. It's a form of emotional manipulation, done subtly but with a big impact. This kind of situation is especially harmful because it hits at the core of your emotional well-being. Everyone needs to be heard, understood, and valued. When these needs are repeatedly ignored, it can make your self-esteem drop and make you feel alone, even if you're in a relationship that seems active. To navigate through this, it's crucial to notice the signs of emotional neglect. This awareness acts like a guide, helping you stay away from relationships that could harm your emotional well-being. It gives you the power to look for connections where both sides care about each other, respect each other, and give and take equally. Now let's discuss number 11, playing with your emotions. This often starts in a sneaky way, with the person making it seem like they care a lot about you. But soon enough, this act turns into a way of making you feel anxious, not good enough, or guilty. They become experts at pushing your emotional buttons, praising you to make you feel good when it helps them, and then suddenly criticizing or putting you down to make you doubt yourself and rely on them. Think of it like a gardener and a delicate plant. A caring gardener gives just the right amount of water and sunlight, but an emotional manipulator, like a gardener who doesn't care, goes between giving too much attention and then completely ignoring you. They use these emotional extremes to shake things up, making you depend on them for approval and warmth. This manipulation often goes right to the heart of your emotional well-being. They might downplay your achievements or make your failures seem huge to keep you feeling unsure. They could twist things to make you feel guilty for normal stuff, making sure you always end up apologizing. In relationships where emotional manipulation happens, the balance of power is always off. The manipulator is in control, deciding when to show affection and when to pull away, keeping you off balance. This dynamic isn't about both people growing and supporting each other. It's about the manipulator getting what they want, even if it hurts the other person emotionally. Spotting emotional manipulation needs a sharp understanding of these patterns. It means recognizing when someone is consistently playing with your feelings. It's about looking inside yourself to see how these interactions affect how you see yourself and your emotional well-being. Now let's talk about number 10, not getting real support. Picture a tree in a big forest. Ideally, it gets support from the other trees and plants around, getting nutrients, shelter, and the company of a lively ecosystem. Now think of a tree standing alone in a dry, empty place with no other plants to offer help or protection. Being in a relationship with someone who doesn't genuinely care about your well-being is a bit like that. You feel alone, with your branches reaching out for support that never comes. In these relationships, your goals, plans, and problems are met with indifference or just empty gestures of support. This person might say they're behind your ideas, wish you good luck without really meaning it, or even express support in words. But when it comes to real help, useful advice, or just being there when you're going through a tough time, they're nowhere to be found. Their help, if they offer any, is often just for show, and it tends to vanish when you need it the most. The reason behind this lack of genuine support is that they're focused on themselves. Your successes or struggles matter to them only if it affects them or their goals. They see relationships like a business deal, where they calculate how much they invest emotionally based on what they can get in return. This way of thinking creates an imbalance where one person keeps giving, whether it's effort, care, or resources, while the other just takes. It often leaves the giver feeling unappreciated and unseen. Recognizing this lack of genuine support is important to understand what your relationship is really like. It means honestly looking at how you both contribute to the relationship. Identifying and dealing with this lack of support is key to making sure you spend your time and energy on relationships that are supportive, reciprocal, and genuinely caring. Now let's talk about number 9, always trying to outdo you. Imagine a game of chess where every move is not just about getting ahead, but also about trying to bring down the opponent. Similarly, someone who just wants to use you might treat your relationship like a strategic game. Every time you achieve something, make a decision, or face a challenge, it's a chance for them to show they're better. They want to overshadow your successes at work, surpass your personal achievements, or subtly make your decisions seem less important, all to stay ahead in this self-made competition. This constant competition shows up in different ways. At work, they might try to outshine you in meetings or take credit for your ideas. In personal relationships, they could downplay what you've been through or what you've accomplished, always putting their own experiences next to yours to seem more important. Even in simple chats, you can feel them trying to prove they're smarter, better, or more successful. This behavior comes from deep-seated insecurity and a twisted view of self-worth. They measure their value not by their own achievements, but by being better than others. This way of thinking turns every interaction into a game where, for them to win, someone else, in this case you, has to lose. It's a mindset that puts beating others above growing together. Dealing with someone who's always competing can be tiring emotionally. It creates a never-ending tense atmosphere where working together or supporting each other is replaced by rivalry. Your successes aren't celebrated, but seen as a threat to their dominance, and your problems aren't met with understanding but as chances for them to get ahead. Spotting and understanding this pattern is important. It helps you set boundaries and maybe change the relationship into a healthier, more cooperative one if possible. It means realizing that a good relationship is built on respect and support, not on a constant race to be better than each other. Now let's talk about number 8, not being there when it matters. Imagine a tree that gives shade only on sunny days but disappears when the storm clouds roll in. When things are good and everything is easy, these folks are around, enjoying the good times and maybe getting something out of the relationship. But when things get tough, when challenges come up, and you need support the most, they're nowhere to be found, leaving you to face the difficulties alone. These people see relationships as something convenient, like a tool they use for their own benefit. Their help is only surface level, given when it suits their interests or when there's something in it for them. In crucial moments, whether it's a personal problem, a work setback, or emotional stress, you can feel their absence. It's in these times, when you need real support and understanding, that you see their true priorities and their lack of commitment to the relationship. The impact of this behavior can be deep. It creates a feeling of being let down and disappointed, eroding the trust and dependability you thought was a strong part of the relationship. It makes you question the nature of the bond and often leads to thinking about the other person's role and value in your life. Understanding this pattern is key to recognizing what the relationship is really like and what the other person truly wants. It means realizing that consistent support, both in happy times and tough times, is crucial in any meaningful relationship. Knowing that someone is absent during your critical moments acts like a crucial test, helping you see who genuinely cares about your well-being and who's only in the relationship for themselves. Now let's dive into number 7, not getting back what you give. Imagine a seesaw where one side is heavy with efforts, sacrifices, and commitments, while the other side is super light, with hardly any contributions. This picture perfectly shows a relationship without reciprocity. In these situations, you're always putting in time, energy, and feelings, trying hard to nurture and keep the connection alive. On the flip side, the other person's efforts are minimal, maybe just for show, or sometimes they don't even bother. This uneven effort can show up in different ways. You might always be the one starting conversations and making plans, while they respond with little enthusiasm or commitment. You might be giving continuous support and understanding without getting the same care or help back when you need it. Even when you share personal stuff and vulnerabilities, you might be open and honest, but they stay guarded or seem uninterested. The reason behind this lack of reciprocity is that they see the relationship as something convenient, like a resource they use when they want to, without really caring about having a meaningful connection. Their involvement is calculated based on what benefits them, and they don't consider what the other person needs or feels. This approach is the opposite of what healthy relationships are about. They thrive on both people giving and taking, sharing experiences, and emotionally investing equally. Spotting the lack of reciprocity needs you to pay attention to how the relationship works. It means asking yourself if the efforts to keep the connection growing are shared, or if you're carrying most of the weight. It's about honestly figuring out if the relationship feels fulfilling or draining, balanced or one-sided. Now let's talk about number 6, spreading rumors and breaking trust. Imagine it like a two-sided sword. On one side, gossiping about others might make it seem like they're sharing secrets with you, making you feel part of an exclusive group. But the other side of the sword is much worse. It involves breaking your trust using the private or sensitive info you shared in confidence to gossip with others. This betrayal isn't just about breaking trust. It's a sneaky move to make you feel less secure and private in the relationship. This behavior shows they don't care about keeping personal info safe and have no respect for keeping things confidential. They use gossip as a tool for playing social games, often positioning themselves as a hub of information. By spreading and twisting details, they try to control what people think, form alliances, or even cause problems, all for their own benefit. This kind of behavior reveals a practical approach to relationships, where people are seen as tools to get what they want, and private info is like money to be used. The impact on the person being gossiped about is complicated. It creates an atmosphere of distrust and uncertainty, ruining the foundation of what could have been a supportive and trustworthy relationship. It can lead to social and emotional problems, as spreading personal info can harm reputations, relationships, and self-esteem. Spotting this pattern is vital to protect yourself from such relationship predators. It means being careful about how they talk about others when they're not around and thinking twice about what you share with them. Watching how they handle confidential info and their love for gossip can give you useful insights into their character and intentions. Recognizing and dealing with this pattern is essential to keep your dignity intact and make sure your personal boundaries are respected in every relationship. Now let's dive into number 5, being available only when it suits them. Imagine it like a phone line where only one person is always ready to talk. In this situation, you're always there to listen, help out, or offer support. Your time, your feelings, and what you can give are like open books for them to access anytime. On the other side, their availability is as rare as a comet in the night sky, here and there, unpredictable, and always on their own terms. This difference in availability isn't just about busy schedules or having different priorities. It's a choice they're making, a strategy they're using. They stay unavailable to keep a comfortable distance and to stay in control. By limiting how available they are, they create a situation where you're left wanting more, feeling thankful for any time or attention they decide to give. In these relationships, when you try to connect or engage, you often get excuses, delays, or they just ignore you. Your messages might go unanswered, your calls might be ignored, and your needs might be brushed aside. When they do engage, it usually aligns with what they want or need, turning the relationship into a one-way street where your role feels more like a convenience than a valued partner. This pattern can take a toll on your emotions. It makes you feel not good enough, questioning if what you offer and your worth really matter to them. It can also create frustration and resentment when you realize that your efforts and availability aren't being returned. Spotting this pattern is crucial. It means taking a step back and looking at the balance of effort and availability in the relationship. It's about understanding that healthy relationships are built on both people respecting each other, making an effort, and being present. Now let's talk about number 4, making you feel guilty. Imagine guilt as a puppeteer's string, pulling at your conscience and leading you down a path you might not really want to take. The person using you is like a skilled puppeteer, knowing how to pull these strings just right, tapping into your sense of responsibility, empathy, or fairness. They might ask for things in a way that makes saying no seem like you don't care or are being selfish. Or they might remind you of past favors, making you feel like you owe them something. This trick of making you feel guilty is often sneaky and gradual. It starts with small favors or compromises and slowly moves to bigger demands. As time goes on, your boundaries get worn down and it becomes harder to say no, leaving you stuck in a cycle of guilt and doing what they want. Your needs and wants take a back seat, or sometimes they're completely ignored. This trick works because it plays into a basic part of human nature, the desire to be seen as good, helpful, and caring. By making you feel guilty, the person using you twists these good qualities, turning them into tools for control. You end up doing things not because you genuinely want to or out of mutual respect, but because you feel like you have to, often feeling upset or exhausted. Spotting when someone is using guilt to manipulate you is important to protect your personal boundaries and emotional well-being. It means paying attention to the feelings in your interactions, telling apart genuine requests for help from attempts to take advantage of your kindness. It also means having the courage to question why they're asking, and standing up for your right to say no without feeling guilty. Recognizing and dealing with this manipulative trick is crucial for building healthier relationships based on mutual respect, real care, and free choice, instead of obligation and guilt. Now talk about number 3, when the other person isn't really interested in you. Think of a conversation like a busy two-way street with thoughts, experiences, and emotions flowing back and forth. In a good relationship, this street is full of shared interests and care. But with someone who just wants to use you, this street turns into a one-way road. It's all about their stories and experiences, and when you try to talk about yourself, it's like hitting roadblocks or dead ends. This lack of personal interest shows up in different ways. Conversations feel more like one-person shows disguised as chats. They happily dive into the details of their daily life, expecting you to pay attention and care. But when it's your turn to talk, their interest suddenly disappears. They might nod without really paying attention, change the subject quickly, or show that they're not interested or in a hurry. Your problems and experiences, no matter how important, barely seem to matter to them. This behavior isn't just a lack of good manners or conversation skills. It's a clear sign of their priorities and intentions. By taking over the conversation and ignoring your stories, they set up a situation where their needs, opinions, and life come first. It's like the relationship revolves around them, and your role is more like an audience or a sounding board. Dealing with these kinds of interactions can be really disheartening. It can make you feel unimportant and frustrated because the basic human need to be recognized and understood isn't being met. Over time, this imbalance can chip away at the foundation of the relationship, making you feel more like an extra in their life than an equal partner. Spotting this lack of personal interest is important. It means being aware of how your interactions play out and understanding how these one-sided conversations affect your emotions. It's about figuring out if the relationship is mutually fulfilling or if it's more draining. Recognizing this imbalance helps you look for relationships where your stories and experiences are valued and respected just as much as theirs. Now let's talk about number 2. When closeness seems real, but it's just on the surface. Picture it like the shiny top of a lake that looks deep, but when you check, it's not as profound as it seems. In these situations, people might act like close friends or partners. They communicate a lot, share laughs, and even seem to have intimate conversations. But this seeming closeness doesn't go beyond the surface. The lack of real commitment shows in different ways. They enjoy the good parts of the relationship but step back when it needs effort or sacrifice from them. When you need support, it might not be there, especially during tough times. They show up for happy moments but disappear when things get hard or when you're vulnerable. Also, this kind of surface-level closeness often lacks the trust and reliability that real relationships have. Plans might be made but casually broken. Promises might be given but rarely kept. They participate in the relationship when it suits them, based on convenience and what serves their own interests. The reason behind this behavior is often to have a group of contacts they can call on when needed, without putting in the emotional work that true relationships need. It's a way of keeping people close for usefulness, without getting too attached or taking on real responsibilities. In a way, it's like emotionally playing it safe, getting the good parts of closeness without the risk of true connection or commitment. Spotting this kind of surface-level closeness is important to understand what's happening in the relationship. It means looking at the patterns of how you interact and thinking about whether the seeming closeness matches real commitment and shared openness. It's about figuring out if the emotional effort in the relationship is equal or if it's more about meeting their needs. It's a relationship that looks close on the outside but lacks the real foundation of true commitment and growing together. Recognizing this pattern helps you find and build relationships that are real, balanced, and have genuine emotional depth. Number 1, to sum it up. When someone consistently disrespects you in a relationship, it's not just a random mistake or a slip of the tongue. It's like a constant thread woven into the fabric of how you connect with them. Imagine a garden where respect is like the magic ingredient that makes relationships grow. Without it, you're stuck in a barren land where nothing good can flourish. Every attempt to talk or connect feels like walking through a field of prickly thorns. The person doing this lack of respect uses it like a tool, whether they know it or not, to be in control. It's their way of making you feel smaller and keeping things in a way where they have more power, even though relationships should be about equality and caring for each other. This ongoing lack of respect shakes the very foundation of the relationship. When there's a disagreement, instead of working through it with understanding, it turns into a battlefield with no concern for how it affects your emotions. The normal ups and downs in a relationship get all messed up, making it hard or sometimes impossible to get back to a good place with mutual respect. Spotting and understanding this pattern of constant disrespect is super important. It means looking beyond one-time incidents and seeing the bigger picture. It's about knowing that respect isn't just about big, fancy gestures. It's in the little things every day, in the small acknowledgments, and in how you both handle disagreements. In the end, if someone keeps disrespecting you in a relationship, it's a clear sign that they don't see you as an equal partner, but more like a tool for their own needs. Their lack of care for your feelings and dignity shows a relationship that's not balanced and not healthy. Recognizing this is a big deal for anyone who cares about their self-respect and wants relationships based on equal respect. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you made it to the end, share your thoughts in the comments. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Catch you soon.